You ready?
I'm ready to start.
So
Let me first of all say that this is Ascending Harvest, and this is the founder, Shane
McKenna.
McKenna.
So Steve asked me, how did I come up with this technology? And the very short answer to that is I became concerned about the problem of hunger, specifically in Africa, 32 years ago. And I have been studying the problem and working in agricultural technology ever since. What I've developed is the world's first human-powered hydroponics technology. And there's a couple of important things about that. First of all, it runs without any electricity or fuel. So in communities that don't have access to infrastructure, electricity, and fuel, they can still use hydroponics. Another important aspect of our technology is it's the only hydroponics technology in the world that allows you to incorporate soil. So our systems can work with or without soil, but there's literally nothing on the planet that gives food more nutrient density than soil. So we prefer, if people have soil available to them, that they can pair their system with intelligent grow media and soil. So let me give you a brief primer of how this thing works. So we have a disposable bottle that's been converted to a pump. Your thumb is the check valve, you put it over a hole, you squeeze the bottle, it pumps air into the system. That air bubbles up and oxygenates the water and nutrient mixture. But we also capture that air in what we call an air battery. So instead of an electrical battery, we have a chamber in here we call our air battery. That air is held and captured under pressure because gravity, as I pump this up, water's displaced, gravity's acting on the water and pressurizing the air. That pressurized air goes through a pump that I invented, and it pumps water up into the grow bin. And then intelligent grow media inside the grow bin is an engineered material that acts like a synthetic, well, it doesn't act like, it is a synthetic biomass that will last for decades. So once the soil is pre-amended with intelligent grow media, it never needs to be amended with biomass ever again. It could enhance it to have more biomass, but it doesn't need it. That's an important aspect.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
When you say biomass, are you talking about fertilizer? Would I use the same
Biomass is organic material that you amend the soil with in order to get carbon and moisture holding material into the soil so that water just doesn't run through the soil.
Got it.
So what we have is we have a synthetic engineered material that acts as that and enhances the performance of the system. And so what's really important is that intelligent grow media takes this water that's being pumped to the bottom of this tray and it pulls it up to the plants. Now the critical thing about that for a third world person who's never grown anything before is that creates a water intelligence system. They can not make a mistake. So here's basil, and basil loves water. Will grow in a glass of water. This is rosemary. Rosemary likes a desert hillside. So I'm growing a water-loving plant and a desert plant in the same system. If you try to do that in your garden, it will fail. If you try to do that in a 5-gallon bucket, it will fail. But here, they can thrive together because intelligent grow media works with the intelligence of the plant. The basil sends its roots right to the bottom to saturation, and the rosemary keeps its roots high in the dry area of the soil. So it works exactly like an oasis does in nature, where the water comes up from underneath the surface and every plant can thrive because it gets to choose the water and nutrient delivery that it needs. So that's how our technology works, but what's critically important about all of this is because all the intelligence of nutrient and water delivery is baked into the system, it allows people to use a systematic approach to grow food. They don't have to understand how to grow their own food. They just need to add air, add water, and add organic materials to it once a week, and the system will do the rest. It will grow their food for them.
So
That's it.
Shane, talk to me a little bit about, we all have little gardens and a little bit of basil, but in terms of being able to produce food to live on,
Yes.
what's the capacity?
So we have behind us here, we have these humanitarian systems. And these are sized so that they can be delivered to anywhere in the world by a service volunteer and checked onto the aircraft as luggage. So this is the largest size that can be checked onto an aircraft as luggage and not get an overage fee. So these get delivered by service volunteers, and once they're set up in the community, they don't need any outside resources, and they can grow up to several hundred pounds of food annually, especially where they have a year-round growing season. In each system. So we would recommend that let's say a single mom with 2 kids, we would recommend that she have at least 5 or 6 systems to grow enough food to get to nutritional adequacy with the other food that she would also be consuming, such as beans and rice and corn and those staples. They can round out their nutritional adequacy, but more important, they're getting fresh produce. They're getting those vitamins and nutrients that turn on their brain and allows them to think through to solutions. Because if they're only eating carbohydrates, their brain isn't getting the full nutrient density in order to turn their mind on to connect the dots to create solutions in their life.
Shane, can you tell me what's in each one of these bins? What kind of plants?
So with this, the first one on the left here, we've got tomatoes, kale, spinach, some parsley, and some corn. In the next one, and by the way, those 2 bins don't contain any soil. They contain sand and gravel. I'm demonstrating, now you can see they're not growing as well, but they're still growing food even though they don't have a good soil. So those are demonstration systems to show that even with poor soil, you can have a successful crop. And we're growing Japanese peppers, corn, I think watermelon. I've got an eggplant in there, and I've got some kale. In the next one over, I've got some garlic chives, some Japanese sweet potato, another watermelon, some spinach. In this one over here, I've got a couple of my favorites, just because this one sits on, well, all of these sit on my balcony, but that one's a permanent resident, and it has rhubarb and sunchokes. So those are a couple of things that I choose just because they're hard for me to get in the grocery store, and every once in a while I want to have a treat.
Great, great.